The training that you're about to get into is the most detailed and value-packed training that you're ever going to find for free online. And it's the first part in a series called Dating Mastery, where I'm going to be breaking down for you in intense detail how you can attract and create the kind of dating life you want and get the kind of dating results that you want with super high quality women without stress and without complication and following a bunch of pickup tricks and sacrificing your life to try to chase girls, which I know is something that many high performing men do not want to do. I know myself, I don't want to do that. And I figured out how to not do that. I figured out how to create my ideal dating life using a series of principles which I refer to as the principles of dating mastery. And we're going to learn these principles in this series. I want to say two important things. So number one, if you are someone who is a beginner and completely new to success with women and self-development, like if you are just starting off, I'm talking virgin status, or you've been with maybe a few girls, but you have no idea about how to go and actually talk to women, or you're not into self-development at all and working on yourself, this video right here is not for you. This is not the kind of video you want to watch. A lot of this is going to go over your head and you may not even be able to apply it. This is for guys that have already been out there, for guys that have had several relationships that have been inconsistent, for guys that are somewhat getting results but haven't had the control over their lives that they wanted in terms of how they date, for guys that have had experience but haven't had it in the way that they want. And then number two, if you like entertaining, quick, fun content, like I put out a lot of Instagram shorts or the TikTok style content, or if you like information and training that is full of like highlights and full of pop-ups and funny little GIFs and movie scenes, things like that, which I do put in some of my trainings, this is not going to be for you either, because that's not going to have any of that. This is going to be pure value, like course level value. So you know how there's these courses online that are $297, $397. These next couple of videos that are going to be in this series of Dating Mastery are going to be that level, actually beyond that level of value. So this is videos where you sit down, you watch, you learn, and you apply, and you take the action. And then I'll say one more thing as well. If you're not going to take the action, don't bother watching this as well, because there's no point. You're not going to be able to use this at all. But if you're on board with this, if you are ready for this, if you're ready to learn, we're going to go ahead and dive in. We're going to open up the whiteboard. This is going to be a very intense training that can be very transformational if you use it the right way. It's going to be an exact how-to that's going to combine the logic with the mindset. So we're going to get very logical, but we're also going to use mindset principles, and we're going to take a very bird's eye view to success with women and to dating mastery. We're going to follow these principles, and this is going to be the kickoff video where we get the bird's eye view and the overview of what we need to do to actually attract women and bring them into our lives and grow as men in a way that's almost effortless and that feels really easy, super fun, and super natural. Okay, let's go ahead and crack into the training. Let's open up the whiteboard. I'll see you in there. Okay, so welcome to How to Date High Quality Women. This is the first part in a series on high quality dating. And it's really important that you start here and watch these consecutively, because each of them talk about specific principles that are really important. And this is like course-worthy fucking training. So we're going to go fucking deep here. And hopefully you have the attention span to keep up with me as we go deep into the training. So we're going to just jump in right now. We're not going to hesitate. The first thing I want you to understand is what we call possible limits. For you to attract women into your life, you need to understand what are the possible limits that are preventing you from actually just attracting consistently. And excuse my drawing in this if it's going to be a little bit shit, but there's a couple possible limits that you're going to have, and you need to have each of these checked off. So the first limit is attraction. And by limits, what I mean is every time I work with a guy and he comes in to join our program and there's something that needs to be corrected, it's always one of these three things every single time. It's never anything different. Like, even if it appears to get something different, it always comes back to one of these three boxes of the thing that needs to be worked on, why this person, this guy, this high-performing, successful man is not just attracting high-quality women effortlessly. Because, again, it can seem like it's difficult, but it's actually not. It is difficult if you don't know what to do, right? But then once you figure it out and you get the momentum, you're like, oh shit, this was actually really easy. I didn't need to stress about this. So the first principle is attraction. The first possible limit, the first box you need to have checked off, and this needs to be solidly checked off. I drew that like shit. Let's do that again. The first box that needs to be checked off is attraction. So attraction essentially is, what does this woman perceive of you? How much does she desire you? How much does this woman want you? If attraction is not in check, then you're gonna struggle with meeting girls. You're gonna struggle with attracting high quality women if you're not an attractive man. You need to be, what I always like to say is you have to be at least a 7 out of 10. And if you want to know more about attraction, there's a video I have on attraction. I've broken it down in detail. I've broken it down into literal percentages of presentation, which is how you look. There's communication, which is how you share information, and leadership, which is how good you create experiences, right? These three things are what create attraction. These three things are the building blocks of attraction. So you need to have attraction with a girl. If you want to learn more about this, or if you're a beginner at this, again, this training may not be for you. Just watch my specific video that I have on attraction. I'll put the link in the description below. But so this is how much women desire you. And they could desire you, like, let's say from like, it could be a 1 all the way to a 10, right? If you're a 7 out of 10, great. You're going to see that like 7 out of 10 girls would be like, oh, this guy is a guy that I would go out with. If you're not, well, there's stuff you need to work on. The second possible limit is what we call perceived value. And this is something, you know, I've talked about if you've watched any of my trainings. Perceived value is important. This is what women think your value is. And you want to have this checked off as well. So perceived value is what women think your value actually is. It's not your actual value, but this is something that comes into question. And what's really interesting is I work with a lot of guys who have, well, actually most of my clients have very high actual value. So their actual value, surprisingly, is actually quite high. So a lot of my clients have a high net worth. A lot of them are earning money. So they have this in check, the actual value, but their perceived value is not in check. Like, it's actual shit, right? And I'm just going to fucking draw on this board and have fun with it. So don't judge me. Their perceived value is shit, which means that they go to a bar, they go to some social environment, they'll go out during the day and meet girls, or they'll be in like a social setting. And they may have money coming in. They may have traveled to a bunch of places. They run a business. But women don't see them as a high value guy and a high value option. We're not going to focus on perceived value in this training. We're going to go into that later. But perceived value is another upper limit. So you need to know which one of these is your limits. Sometimes I have guys that have a high perceived value, actually, where women think they're a high value guy, but they're not creating attraction. They're not an attractive guy. So he looks like he's got value, and maybe he does have value. He's got money. He goes to really good venues. Maybe he dresses well. He hangs out in good circles. He communicates to a certain extent well, but he's not necessarily attractive. Most of the time, though, if you have high perceived value, you are going to be attractive. You can also be attractive and have very low perceived value. This happens too. And a lot of times, guys who are like this I'll have to tell them how to change their lifestyle overall so that they can increase their perceived value. And then what we have is process. Process is something that a lot of guys have to learn. Process is going from cold, so where a girl doesn't care about you, going from cold to intimacy. That's process, right? Going from a girl who doesn't actually care about meeting you to then becoming intimate with her. This is something a lot of guys need to learn to do. This was the hardest thing, I think, for me in my journey, was learning a step-by-step process. It was that and being attractive. Perceived value I worked on naturally over time, but it was learning a process. So going from cold to intimacy, you need to have this checked off as well. All three of these things need to be checked off if you're going to date high quality women. I'm not kidding. You need to have all three of them. You can't just have one of these or two of them. Something's going to be missing. So if, let's say, you're attractive and you have high perceived value, but you don't have a process, women will challenge you and you won't be able to handle those challenges, or you'll have opportunities that present themselves to you, but you won't make anything happen from those opportunities, right? Let's say that you're attractive and you have a process, but you have very low perceived value. You're going to date women that are not high quality. So you're going to get girls that are very below what you could actually attract. And the women you do attract are going to be women you're not really happy with attracting. Let's say you have a process and you have high perceived value, but you're not attractive. Women are going to want you for your value. They're going to want you for what they can get from you. They're not going to want you for who you are as a man. And like, this guy is actually a guy that I care about, that I really liked. So at the end of the day, what you want to get to, and this is super important, you want to make sure that all of these things here, all three of them, your attraction, your perceived value, and your process, all of this needs to be a big check. Like, this all needs to be in check, okay? What I'll tell you is this, because we're about to go super deep. The one thing you could do here to actually take this information and use it to help you in your life and be a part of this training that we're going to do is down below. There's this little fucking red button and it has an S in it. I'm not going to write the whole thing out. You get what it is. It's to subscribe. So if you look down below, there's a red button that says subscribe. If you're watching this and you're like, God damn, I think this training is about to be crazy, go down and press the subscribe button so that you can be up to date with all the trainings that I'm going to put out on this channel. You're basically investing in a course when you subscribe. That's what you're doing when you subscribe with these trainings I'm putting out. And if you haven't already, like the video as well. Press the little like button. I think there's a little bell. I don't know how to draw a bell here. What was that? I don't know how to draw a bell here at all. So we're going to make a little squiggly line that represents the bell. So like the video, press the subscribe button. And also if you want to be notified when I'm making these things, press the little bell and you'll be notified. Okay, so what I want to go into now is, let's erase all this, is how to actually start. Like, where do you get started? Where do you begin in this journey of attracting women, dating high quality women naturally? So the first thing that we have to address here, the most important thing, is a mindset shift. You've got to understand that you're a product in a very competitive marketplace. Most guys who work with me in dating don't see themselves as this. So let's say we'll call this like, this is a high performing man. So we'll write M for man. This is the high performing man. Most guys see dating as I'm interacting and I'm putting myself out there as much as possible. They see themselves as hunters. So it's like I'm going out there and there's this massive pool of women that are out there, and I'm going to put myself out there as best as I can, and I'm going to try to attract all these women, right? And there's girls out there, there's a girl there, there's a girl there, there's a girl there, there's girls all around, and what guys are trying to do is they're hunting. So I would call this like the hunter's mindset. Most guys are trapped in this kind of mindset. And this is not good. Hunter's mindset. You don't want to be here. And the problem is when you see yourself as a hunter, having a hunter's mindset leads to effort. One of the worst things you could do as a man in dating is rely on effort to try to attract women. And this is what most guys do. So it's like, I'm going out and I'm hunting for women, right? These are the arrows. I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying to attract women by effort and going for it as much as I can, right? So it's like effort, effort, effort. I don't know why I did that, but it's like lots of effort. Constantly putting myself out there, chasing girls. How do I text this girl? How do I get this girl? How do I approach? Even guys who learn stuff from the dating community, they have all these women out here and the women are just sitting and waiting and she's like, what are you going to give me? What are you going to give me? Even guys who are in the dating community who learn success with women, I've seen them do this. Like guys from the old pickup community. They learned processes and systems for how to attract women, but it was all effort. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a shift. And this is what you need to do to actually create success with women. This changed my entire dating life because for a long time, I also saw it as effort, right? I saw it as, what can I do to get these girls to like me? How do I learn how to make them like me? But try this instead. What a lot of men don't do is they don't see themselves as a product, okay? Instead of thinking about this as, I'm in the business of being a hunter, fuck that. That's shit. So I don't want you to have a hunter's mindset. Instead, what if you shifted this to, I'm attracting women to me and I'm a product in a competitive marketplace, right? What if you changed it that way to where you're a product and you're putting yourself out there not to go get women, but to attract women to the product that you are. You do have to sell yourself, right? Because you are a product and you have to do sales. In any business, if you have a really good product, you have to do sales. But people are still going to be attracted to the product. So what happens is you have all these beautiful women around you and you go out in these different dating spaces. So let's say you go to a social event, right? You go to a cool event, like let's say an art show, and you want to look at some cool art. You want to meet some cool chicks that are there as well that come for networking purposes. Or let's say that you go out to a club. You have all these beautiful women. They see you as a product, and they see you as a product anyway. But when you're in a hunter's mindset, you're trapped in effort. Whereas if you see yourself as the product, your focus is more on natural attraction. So you're not trapped in this paradigm of, I've got to get the girl. Instead, you're like, I'm going to attract women. And this is really powerful. Now, what happens is when you go into a mindset of you being the product, you do something really important, really unique, and it's called product development. In any business, product development is making yourself the best product possible, right? It's making in your business, you guys have the best product possible. So it's where you interact with the world and people around you see you as a product and they're like, how can I invest in you? How can I be a part of what you've got going on? How can I get more of this? That's what product development is. But again, a lot of men aren't doing this. A lot of men don't see it this way. A lot of men see it as, I'm interacting with women and I'm trying to get women by being a hunter, and I'm not the product. So I do very little to be the best product I can be. So when you're a better product, you have more options. And see, this circle here, instead of it just being a little circle, it actually becomes a much bigger circle with much more gravity. What happens when you have more gravity? You have more options. Women want to invest in you way more. So instead of being in this hunter's mindset, we want to shift into, I'm a product in the dating marketplace that is very competitive, and I want my product as a man, which is me, I'm a product. I want that to be way better than every other fucking product that is out there, right? How powerful is that when you see yourself not just as a hunter, but you see yourself as a product? And you should not see yourself as a hunter at all, by the way. You want to completely change that. Now, the next stage after product development, which is really big, that's important. We're not going to forget that. We're going to reference that a bit later. But the next stage is what we call positioning, okay? This is another one. Okay, so the next principle, after you understand product development, you are a product in this competitive marketplace, which is the mindset shift you need to have. The next principle is what we call positioning. And I'm actually just going to write this one in here. Positioning is super important. Most guys will skip this step in the journey of dating high quality women because they don't position themselves in the right place. And here's what I mean by positioning. It's not necessarily about who you date, because most guys place a focus on who, right? Like, who's the girl that I'm trying to attract? Who is this one girl that I'm trying to get? I want to get this one specific girl, and if I can do that, yay, everything is good. But instead of who, let's start asking the question. That was a shitty line. Let's start asking the question, how? That's powerful when you can ask how I'm going to date, right? Instead of who, ask how. Because when you start dating a different way, instead of trying to get a certain kind of girl, what's going to happen is the way you interact with women, the way that you attract women becomes natural instead of effort-based. So similar to product development, how in product development, when you shift your mindset, you start attracting women to you instead of trying to chase them. It's the same thing with positioning. Instead of who do I date, like I want these kind of girls, I want this specific girl, this is the girl that I have to get or else I'm not going to be fulfilled. When you ask the question how, the way you date is different. And I want to explain something to you. Women are very different than men, and you may know this already from the research you've done. So women, what they tend to do is they tend to date up in the dating marketplace. So a woman, let's pretend that there's a girl who is like, I don't know, like a fucking 7 out of 10. Okay, she's a 7. What she's going to do is the guys that she's going to be attracted to, the guys she's going to spend time with, the guys she's going to swipe on Tinder as an example, are all going to be 8s and 9s. Right? And that's really interesting. Whereas men don't do this. Guys are different. So if you're, let's say, a 7 out of 10, who are the women that you're going to attract most likely? You're going to actually date down, and you're not even going to realize this. A lot of guys will date down. So we'll date girls that are like a 5, or we'll date girls that are, let's say, a 6, right? One level below what we can date. And it works in the dating marketplace. You know what's funny? There's this book by Dr. David Buss called The Evolution of Desire, which I suggest everyone reads. And in this book, he talks about, it's like a database book on human sexuality, female sexuality, and dating patterns and mating trends and behaviors in humans. And one of the things that he talks about, this is a study he's referenced, is that women who earn a lot of money, it doesn't change for girls who are broke and don't earn money versus girls who earn lots of money. Women who earn money value men who have a higher income and higher status than them even more than girls who earn less than they do, right? So if you have a girl, let's say, who was earning $30,000 or euros a year, that woman values a guy who earns more than her. Like, that's natural for that to happen. She wants a guy who can provide, a guy who is high value. But a woman who earns, let's say, 150,000 euros a year, $150,000 a year, that woman is going to value a guy who earns more than her even more than a girl who earns less. That doesn't go away. It actually gets only stronger. So women date up. So what I did to counteract this, because I built this thing into my life as well, which was letting go of the who, because I was so obsessed with who I want to attract at the beginning, because I was fixated on very specific girls in very specific situations. But I let go of that and I moved into this principle of how, which again was really powerful. When I moved into how, what I did is I created a niche. So I want you to remember this. We'll just write NCH. Niche. You want to niche down when you date. My niche changed over time. So first, I had no idea what I was fucking doing. And I made a training about this on YouTube about my journey. Feel free to watch that. I had no idea what I was doing. But when I niched down, I went from not knowing what I was doing to creating a niche of being a fuckboy. This was the first one. This was the first niche that I had, right? Being the fuckboy. And I even made a course called the Fuckboy Frame. So when I was a fuckboy, I started attracting women that would be attracted to that specific niche. So it wasn't necessarily about who I was dating. It wasn't like I have to get this specific kind of girl, but instead it became how I dated. I dated as a fuckboy. Now, I wasn't an asshole because I had a good upbringing. So when I say fuckboy, I mean I had a lot of traits of a fuckboy, right? So I would have a lot of relationships with girls. The way I would dress was like that. I would dress like kind of a New York hipster guy. I was presented myself at least as being really into the arts. I was this media kid who was always shooting with a camera. That was my niche and my archetype. I dressed wearing a lot of clothes that had holes in it, like a lot of distressed outfits. I was really into high fashion at the time. And that's how I dressed and presented myself as this fuckboy. I created a course called the Fuckboy Frame, right? So the women I would attract were women that were attracted to that. They were women that kind of wanted to make a bad dating decision, if that made sense. And I started to get those kind of results, which was really interesting. I started to have girls chasing me a lot, but there was a lot of chaos as well in my dating life, and girls didn't want to see me regularly. But then I had another shift, and I made this shift around 2019. I shifted from dating as a fuckboy to actually dating as what we would call a high, that was a shitty line, to dating as a high value man. That was really interesting when I moved away from being the fuckboy to being the high value man. And this is where I am now. Everything changed. The way I dressed changed. The way that I communicated changed, right? I started having deeper conversations with girls instead of conversations that were just emotionally charged and quote unquote emotionally spiking, right? So I changed my niche. Now, I would ask you this question because this is really important. Do you actually have a niche right now? Are you dating within a niche? Do you have a clearer view of how you're going to present yourself to the world? And are you creating that view of yourself in the world? Because if you don't have a niche, if you're missing out niching down and actually creating yourself as a product and then putting that product into the world, having a specific niche and meeting women that way, you're actually missing out. And instead you're using randomness and you're not using selection. Randomness is always limited, right? And randomness basically looks like, this would be randomness. Randomness is I get whatever comes to me and whatever opportunities are kind of thrown my way and I try not to fuck them up. You don't want to be in a state of randomness. Instead, what you want to be in is a state of selection. Selection is more powerful because when you're in a state of selection, you can pick and choose how you date. And the easiest way to pick and choose how you date is by niching down. Again, so think of yourself as a product. So you're this product in the dating marketplace and you need to be as good as you can so that you can essentially be better than your competition, which is other guys. You are competing against other guys in the dating marketplace. Once you have that and once you have yourself as a product, the second thing is how you position yourself. Are you niched down? And a big part of this is the environments you go to. That's another one, right? A lot of times, one thing I found, and I learned this kind of the fucking hard way, unfortunately, but I learned that high quality women, we're going to move niching over here because this is important to remember. High quality women date or spend time in high quality environments, right? So before, what I used to do is it used to be the places that allowed me to be around the most women was where I would go to. So it was like quantity, right? Or let's write, I guess we'll write arrow up here for quantity, right? So it was like, how can I date as much quantity as possible? And I would spend time in environments where there was going to be many women. So it was kind of a place where everybody would get into the club, or it was a place that was kind of like this college type party environment where there wasn't a lot of grown up people, you know, but that was when I was younger. But even when I was started getting older and more mature, I would go to places where there was just a lot more people. Even when I started traveling overseas, I would find all the tourist bars where all the girls would come in from the UK, from France. I mean, nothing against people from the UK. It really isn't related to the location they're from, but I would go to these places where I could find quantity of women, and I would be so focused and so obsessed with quantity, right? How can I find places where I can approach more, where I can date more girls? But then I made a shift, and the shift that I made was shifting from quantity into quality. And when I shifted into quality, something really interesting happened. the quality of the dating results that I started getting also changed. And my perceived value, remember how much I talk about perceived value, my perceived value also changed. So I started interacting with women in a way where they were like, just because he's in this venue and in this quality club, this quality place, this guy must be high value to some extent. I have to invest in him. And dating became much easier because I was focused more on the quality of how I dated. Going back to positioning, right? Let's say in a business, you have a product and your product is really good, but you're selling that product to people that are not great buyers, people that are not interested in investing in themselves. What's going to happen is you're going to struggle to make sales, or you're going to have shitty fucking clients. This happened to me. I'm not kidding. Back in the day when I first started dating, I had a good offer. I was an okay coach. I was pretty good, but my services were so cheap, and I tried to convince people to buy from me, and I would chase everyone to buy from me. And what happens is my clients didn't respect me. Whereas now that I have more choice and I've built a funnel in my business where I integrate people into my offer seamlessly, now all the clients I work with are amazing guys that are very high performing and serious about getting results. And I don't have to chase anyone down for money, chase anyone down for anything. They're just like, hey, how can I grow? Let's grow together. Let's learn together, because the quality of who I work with has improved. So it's the same thing in dating. Dating is literally like a business. I'm not kidding. There's more emotion involved when you build relationships now, and you're getting to know a human on a personal level. But before you're getting deeply to know someone, it's very much like a business. You are a product in a dating marketplace, and you have to understand that. And you're positioning yourself, you're niching down and positioning yourself in a place that is quality, because there you're going to find the most quality buyers for your product, which are going to be quality women. Remember, this is really advanced stuff, and I'm sure you've never heard it positioned this way before. Maybe you have, but if you haven't, which you might not have, this is really like real shit that's actually changed my entire life. So after you understand positioning, we're going to move on to the next point here. After you understand positioning and how to shift where you meet women and go from being a guy who's all about I can't erase letters, going from being a guy who's all about the who and who do I date, instead of that to being a how guy, like how am I meeting women and what kind of person am I becoming? The next step is focusing in on high impact connection, which we're going to learn right now. So high impact connection is essentially making sure that every single woman you connect with has intention, right? Every single interaction you get has intention. Now, a lot of guys make this mistake, and this is a mistake I used to make myself. So the reason I'm teaching it is because I'm very familiar with making this mistake in my fucking dating life. So a lot of guys, what they do is, let's pretend that this right here, we'll draw a little X, is the starting point of an interaction, okay? That's the starting point. And here is maybe, let's say, intimacy or getting to know her. Okay, so this is kind of the end of an interaction before you get into everything else that is like relationship, right? But we're not going to go there. So this is beginning, this is the end, the start. What happens is a lot of guys coast on autopilot. B is the beginning. And what they'll do is they'll have this little journey they go on where they're just staying in an interaction with the girl because they're supposed to. So they go into the interaction with very little thought. They're not necessarily thinking like, what do I want out of this interaction? Why am I interacting with the girl? They'll go into an interaction just straight up on autopilot. Now, here's what I do and what made my dating life change so much. I started putting a break at the beginning of my interactions. So I would see a girl here at this point at the very beginning, and it'd be like, who the fuck is this girl? I see her in a bar or see her during the day. And what I used to do is I would skip this part, and I would see the girl and I'd say, oh, a girl that I should talk to and approach because she's attractive and cool, right? But what I do now is, and this is really dating high quality women, because high quality women have a different standard for how they connect with men. What I would do is, instead of me just interacting with the girl and going up to her like, okay, I'm here, let me make something happen, yada, 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 all right? Instead of that, I would say, I pause and I internally judge the situation. I'm like, do I like this girl? What do I feel about her internally? I look at her and I genuinely see myself with the girl, and I create a deep intention to make something happen. This is what we call the early pause point. You can write that down. I don't know if you're taking notes on this session, but you can write this down. It's called the early pause point. And it's really powerful. Early pause point. So what I'll do is, at this early pause point, I'll look and I'll judge the girl before I go in. I'll see and I'll look her in the eyes. Maybe if she's looking at me, a lot of times girls will notice me looking at them. I'll look her in the eyes, or she won't notice, but I'll look at her and I'll feel something inside. I'll say, what do I want from this girl? Do I actually like her? Do I want to get to know her? Is she good enough for me? Is she good enough for what I want? So what I'm doing is I'm hijacking my autopilot. A lot of guys skip this. They remove this, right? So they interact through autopilot. It's like, girl, I'm going to go in, I'm going to interact with her. Whereas what I like to do is I start off hijacking that. So I take away the autopilot, so now I'm interacting with extreme intention. And when you do this is what's so fucking powerful and so much fun. Everything slows down. This whole process, this whole journey takes more time. It slows down. So a lot of guys, what's funny is, this is crazy. We're going over this actually in LMC right now, which is, our consulting program. The guys are asking me because they're starting to get more results, putting themselves out there more. And I'm getting this question a lot, which is, like, how much time should I take from going from meeting a girl to intimacy, right? In this journey that I have from hello to intimacy, this process, how much time should I take? Because what a lot of them are doing is rushing through it. They're going and interacting with the girl for 10 minutes and they're like, okay, next step, next step, next step. But I drag my interactions out. Like, I tell this to a lot of my guys who are working with me and people on, here on YouTube. I'll go out to a club or I'll go out social environment, social venue, and I'll talk to 3 girls in a night and I'll take one home. I'm not exaggerating. And those who are closest to me, friends of mine, guys who I've consulted for, have been out with me. They know I do this. They've seen me do this regularly. We'll talk to 1 or 2 girls, 3 girls at most, and we'll end up taking 1 girl home. Or we won't take anyone home, but we'll set up some cool dates, some solid dates, get to know some really awesome girls. How is it that I'm able to do this? Well, it's because of this early pause point. This is one of the reasons why. I'm not interacting with women from a place of, let me make this work as quick as possible. Instead, I'm interacting with them from, do I actually like this woman? Let me take this interaction so seriously. And women can feel this high impact connection from me, right? They can feel this emanating from me in everything that I do. So I go from making myself a product development, which is the mindset shift. I go from that. Then I go to positioning, which is, where do I place myself in the market, and niching down, knowing how I'm going to interact with women, who I'm going to be as a man. And I go from there to positioning myself to having high impact connection. So I see this beautiful, attractive woman in a very high-end club or a very high-end bar environment, or during the day, and I'll see this beautiful woman and I interact with high impact connection. So it's not just like an approach. I'm not just like, oh, hey, let me go meet this girl and see what's up and talk to her just from a, hey, who are you? You're my type. No, I'm thinking. I'm like, fuck, I wanted to come and meet you. I fucking like you. Who the hell are you? I think I'm going to go out with you. You're my type. That's why I came up and said hi to you. And there's so much intention with this woman when I interact with her that everything slows down. Everything has a purpose. Everything is beautiful with this interaction. It's like a fucking dance. You don't rush it. It becomes a dance. And she resonates with that, and she's able to interact with me from a place of authenticity that feels massively natural. This is the first step. This is the big overview. So you have all these things here, right? And I want to be clear to make sure you understand this, because a lot of guys get confused and they think I'm saying something that I'm not. So we're going to break this down again as simply as possible so you can understand this. Here is what it looks like. It's positioning, high impact connection, and product development. So again, seeing yourself as a product in the dating marketplace. Are you a product, or are you seeing yourself as the hunter? Are you seeing yourself as the guy who just goes for shit? Like, I'm going for it. I'm trying to go out, put myself out there, man, and get these girls. Or are you a product, and are you doing product development so that you can be the best product you can be, and women can see you as a product? And when you do sell yourself, which is putting yourself out there, you have to do that as a man. Anyone who says they're not doing it is lying to themselves. You put yourself out there like, hey, who are you? I like you. She's like, fuck, this is a product I have to invest in. Then how are you positioning yourself? Where are you positioning yourself? Are you in places that are high quality, where you can meet high quality women? Are you starting with who you're dating, or is it about how you're dating? Don't forget, women are going to date up. So if you're positioning yourself as a high value man in the dating marketplace, you're going to attract women right below where you are. So if you're a 10 out of 10 guy, you're going to attract very high quality women that are 8s, 9s, and 10s, right? This is what's happened to me. Now, the women that I attract are very different than the women I attracted in 2017. Now I attract very high quality women, whereas in 2016, 2017, the girls that I attracted were girls that liked a fun fuckboy, right? Like, that's the kind of girls I attracted, girls that were university girls who were just starting out their dating journey, or women that were more mature that had a secure guy that are like, I want to go the opposite direction and mess with a bad boy. And then I would hook up with these girls and not see them again, right? So positioning is important. Now the girls I attract are very high quality women that are, mid 20s or younger, that are like kind of like, I'd say, model type chicks, not professional models necessarily, but girls that are very high quality, intelligent women that want to invest in a guy who knows his shit and is making money, interacts with them, makes them feel some shit, right? And now the next part of this is high impact connection. After you learn to position yourself, again, I'd say read Dr. David Buss so you have more understanding of the dating marketplace. After you position yourself, how are you connecting? Are you connecting with high impact? Are you thinking before you meet women, or are you just on fucking pickup autopilot? Because that's where so many guys are. They're like, I'm going to go in and put myself out there and just see what happens. But are you looking at this woman like, damn, I have to meet her and I have strong intention, and you go up and she feels that intention from you? What we're going to do in the next training, actually, and this is going to be really important. I think you guys will really enjoy this if you're still around for the end of this training. And if you are, it means you're serious about learning, which is fucking great. But what we're going to do in the next training, actually, is we're going to learn my entire process. I'm actually going to give you my process from beginning to intimacy. And I haven't ever taught this process on YouTube. I actually reserve it only for like my paid clients, but we're going to go into it in detail, and we're going to learn this process together in a simple training video. And I think that's it. Here's what I'll tell you before I let you go. And if you have a second here just to dive deeper, if you are serious about growing in this and you want to cut your learning curve in half, because most of us are on a clock, right? I mean, all of us are on a fucking clock. I'm going to try to draw a shitty clock. This is my clock. So we're on a clock, and the clock is spinning round and round, and you have time. What most people do is they go through trial and error. So they use trial and error, and this clock goes faster and faster. They don't slow it on time. They don't buy back any of their time. And they fast forward to a few years later when they're older, and then they've wasted all this time learning the wrong things, reinforcing the wrong habits. But what happens is when you partner with someone, a mentor, bring in a consultant to actually show you a step-by-step process. Like, here's what you do at each step of the process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. What you do is you cut down the learning curve, and then this little clock down here doesn't actually control your life, and you save time and you buy back time. So if you want to buy back your time, you can partner with me to do all this shit faster and learn my process directly with me. So it's not just a YouTube training that you try for yourself. This is really powerful here too. But instead of that, you can actually go deeper, work with me, and I'll partner with you, analyze every aspect of your dating life over the next couple months, and we'll build something together and help you create the kind of lifestyle that you actually want. Totally up to you if you want to do it, but you can go down below. There's a little link leading to a button where you can book a call with me, and you can also watch a training where we're going to go over all of this stuff together. You can learn my 4-part system, and then we book a call and see if you're a good fit to work with me in our consulting program. Okay. If that sounds like it's for you, just click the links below this video. And if not, I'll see you on the next one. Anyways, the next training we're going to have here, which is going to be part 2 about learning about my full process from beginning to intimacy. Okay. Hopefully it's made sense. I'll see you on the next one. Start applying some of this stuff so you can get some amazing results. I'll see you on the next one, my friend.